Hello, I hope you can see me and can hear me. I'd appreciate if any of you. Oh, I already got a confirmation that at least some people can hear me and see me. I am Boris Makarenko, the Academic Supervisor of Master's Program in Russian Studies at the High School of Economics in Moscow, and we start our webinar. It's 4 p.m. in Moscow, so I say good afternoon, though I understand it may be morning or evening where you are now. I'm broadcasting from my home because due to the pandemic, the university went online completely. Also online is the manager of the program in Russian Studies, Olga Burmakova, with whom some of you may have been in communication already. I'll give you a brief introduction to what the program is about, what the requirements are, after which I'd be happy to answer your questions. You may type in your questions in the chat box any moment, but unless it's something very urgent, I'll postpone all the answers until after I finish the presentation. Hope you are ready and comfortable, and we begin broadcasting. The program in Russian Studies at the High School of Economics is in its maiden year, but unlike the previous year, I'm talking about the program in the present tense rather than in the future tense. Where did the program come from? What is it about? We aspire to teach our students the art of understanding Russia, and that in itself is a conceptual problem. A Russian poet Fyodor Tuchev wrote a verse about a century and a half ago, claiming that Russia cannot be measured by a common yardstick. One has to believe in it rather than comprehend it and reason. Many decades later, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill said that Russia is a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma. We decided to object to both statements and show our students to their satisfaction that Russia indeed can be measured and studied by the tools of comparative political science. And that's what our program is about. It's a master's program granting a Master's of Arts degree in political science. Lasts for 2 years. The instruction is completely in English. The knowledge of Russian is not required. Now, it's a full-time program on the Moscow campus of the High School of Economics, National Research University. One important remark: if perhaps you are good at that, at shopping for similar programs elsewhere, you may have observed that many of programs named Russian Studies or Russian and Eurasian Studies are centered on things cultural and linguistic, language, literature, culture. We pay our due attention to that too, but our program, unlike many others, is a program in political science because we believe that's the most adequate tool to analyze and study Russia, although, as I'll show later, the program is in fact interdisciplinary. Our main competitive advantage is that we are a walking distance to the Kremlin, 1.1 kilometers or 0.7 miles approximately, as Google Maps advised me. What are the other competition? Excuse me, I missed one. The HSE, High School of Economics, we prefer to call it a high school of much more than economics. It's the third best university in Russia in Russian rankings, but of all other universities, it ranks the highest in political science and social sciences in general. And it's a research university according to a Russian rating by the Expert magazine. It's the first in research productivity in social sciences. What are the advantages of the program? As I said, there is no place to study Russia better than Russia itself. Uh, you will be taught by a team of leading experts. This university has a program in political science which is more than 20 years old. The core of the faculty team is more or less stable. These are people well versed in political science and well versed in Russian realities and a teaching experience of 2 decades or more or somewhat less. And we decided that this team, since most of us speak English, can offer their knowledge to international students who are willing to learn a thing or two about Russia. Uh, Most of our experts are not just not only academics and professors, but many of them have an experience in applied research and/or politics. Myself, I continue as president of a think tank called Center for Political Technologies. It's an independent think tank, one of the oldest analytic think tanks in Russia, founded in 1991. The center and myself participated in over 50 electoral campaigns, did tons of sociological research, consulting, and analysis in Russia. How does it feel to combine the works of an academic and a practitioner? I would say the strong disadvantage is that there are only 24 hours every day and you don't have enough time for both jobs. On the other hand, what I and my colleagues know about Russian politics, we know not from books, not even from social media and internet, but from our first-hand experience with Russian politicians. The program gives you avenues to study Russian realities and culture in a top-ranking university. As I'll show in a moment, our curriculum is interdisciplinary, although the cornerstone of that program is in political science. As political scientists, we all practice comparative approach to research, and on many dimensions you'll hear from your professors comparing and contrasting Russia to other countries, Western and Eastern likewise, depending on the context. Next year, our first-year students will get internships in Russian or perhaps international institutions based in Moscow. I'm normally getting quite a few questions about internships. Well, the program proper, I can talk about it based on the actual experience of the living, alive and kicking program. With internships, wait until the next year. By the time you join and by the time you are there, the first year students will already go through the internship period. When we say interdisciplinary, what exactly do we mean? As I said, political science is in the center, and I'll get more specific about what it means being in the center. But different courses employ sociology, business and economics, demography, media, urban studies, legal theory, Russian language. As I said, you can freely apply knowing not a word, not a letter of the Cyrillic alphabet. But once in Moscow, you'll be granted an opportunity of an intensive course of the Russian language as an optional course. This is the question I just answered. Yes, the university has Russian lessons for international students. When you graduate, I am not saying if, I'm saying when. You'll graduate with strong background in political science, first-hand expertise in Russian, and then Masters of Arts degrees from a top-ranking university. Our curriculum prepares you and opens for you avenues in politics and diplomacy, in civil service, in business, Russian and internationals, as we say, working in Russia or with Russia. Consulting, mass media and communications, NGOs and profits, and of course, as one of the leading research universities, it offers opportunities of academic research, which you will be welcome to continue at the same university or elsewhere according to your preferences. How is the program built? Required courses in political science. That is a mandatory thing since we award you a degree in political science according to the Russian standards of university education. You'll have to attend 2 courses in political science and a political science research seminar. There are several core courses in Russian studies which are required for all the students enrolled in it, including, egoistically, my own course, of course. I teach a course about institutions and practices of Russian politics. Explaining Russian politics, that's how you'll find it on the syllabus. Starting with the second semester, you'll have a choice from several baskets. Normally, each basket contains 2 courses to select from, depending on whether you are more interested in Russian politics, Russian society and sociology, demography, or the international dimension of Russia, Russia's place in the world, Russia's relations with the outside world. Does it have masters in public policy as well? In fact, the Faculty of Social Sciences does both public policy and public administration, but the degree is in political science. And as I said, you'll have optional courses in including the Russian language. Could you elaborate on legal theory? Not much. We are not training you as lawyers or sociologists or demographers. But in a way, though we don't call our program a program in area studies, to an extent it is. Myself, my first degree was in Middle East studies. And I know that as an area specialist, you have to know various aspects of the realities of the country or region you are studying, including its legal system, its society. There is a course about Russian criminal system. There is a legal component to a course on government business relations, but this is not a law degree. You can see the required courses and the elective courses as a proof of the interdisciplinary character of this program. Now, I ignored several questions pertinent to things financial. Tuition for 1 year is 390,000 rubles per year. That's sort of a standard fee for a master's program at the High School of Economics. The approximately transfers into euros or dollars may be obsolete now that the oil prices in international markets are down. So is the Russian ruble against all the major international currencies. Last year, we did not have a single waiver or even discount for any prospective student. This year, we don't have many, we have some. If interested, you can get a closer acquaintance with that in the discounts chapter on the program websites, but briefly. There's a very limited number of full tuitions. We did warn students who were interested and contacted us early that to duly proceed the full waiver of tuition, we need the application and the portfolio in by early April. And we did grant 2. I'm not saying that full tuition waivers are completely unavailable, but I'll say that at this time the procedure will be much more complicated and the portfolio has to be really exceptionally outstanding. Better news is that partial tuition waivers are still available and will be awarded at the end of the admissions period. There are special discounts for students who attend the International Summer University at High School of Economics, although frankly, I can't give you an answer about the summer university this year. This pandemic has crippled many things and many deadlines and dates. However, we have several part-time discounts for international applicants and another smaller, in fact, quota of discounts for Russian nationals who apply to the program. The international and Russian applicants do not compete with each other. These are two different baskets of discounts, and granting of discounts will be based on the meritocratic basis. The highest scoring portfolio will be the first considered for a waiver. As I said, if you have more questions, visit the discount section of the program website. Application period started long ago. You have until mid-August this year, although particularly when it concerns international applicants, I strongly urge you not to wait too long, because although the procedure is reasonably well organized, you'll have to spend extra time and effort applying for the Russian visa and going through all other formalities. It's a portfolio competition. The full structure of the portfolio is on the screen, and of course also on the website. The most important parts of the portfolio are your motivation letters. Tell us what you have in your background that you think will make you a prosperous student, and why studying Russia is absolutely essential for you. Recommendation letters, well, that's standard. Essay on a chosen topic. There is a list of suggested topics on the program website. It's not a closed list. My intention as an academic supervisor is to see how you can write in the academic language and how you can accumulate data and present it to your would-be professor. If you have a topic pertinent to Russia, that's the only requirement. 100% it has to be pertinent to Russia. If you have a topic for an essay, write to me or rather to Olga Burmakova, asking that you have this kind of essay in mind, and if appropriate, I'll give you a clearance to write an essay on that topic at any moment. Your resumes, your transcripts and diplomas, your other achievements. If you have publications, not necessarily in the top-ranking political science magazine in your country, but any collection of students' papers, any collection of materials of a conference you participate in, attach it, same as certificates and diplomas you received for your successes in academic competition. Proof of English proficiency. It is not required if you are a native English speaker, or if the language of instruction in your BA program was English. We will see that from your documents. If one of these two conditions are met, we give you the highest score for this section automatically. Otherwise, send us a TOEFL or equivalent, or at least a transcript which shows that you did go through courses of English in your baccalaureate program. Just for your information, because many questions are asked about it, how much you'll have to spend over and above the tuition. The best news is that we provide dormitories guaranteed to 100% of out of Moscow and out of Russia settled students. The dormitory is cheap by at least Western standards. You can rent out a shared or complete apartment in Moscow if you like, but that, of course, is more costly. And you'll see some other prices in Moscow. Though the program is young, it was well received by the academics. On this slide, we have two quotations from renowned political science Russian specialists from Harvard and Indiana University. And on the next slide, a couple of brief reviews from two of our current students, one from the People's Republic of China, the other is from the United States. I'm done with the introduction. Let me briefly go through the questions which has arrived in my mailbox. I am a 50% waiver. I'm not sure I understand what a 50% waiver means. All the waivers we're talking about are pertinent to tuition only. It doesn't cover anything else. But is there established date for applications that will open in 2021 year? Well, normally we start the admission process in November. Follow the program's website. Teachers education. There's a question about the applicant's BA degree. There are no formal requirements of a B-level degree. In fact, we had applicants with B.Sc, Bachelor of Science. All liberal art degrees are appropriate. The question is, however, quite timely and appropriate. We did notice it in other master's programs in political science that if a student did not get BA in political science, that student will have a more difficult adaptation period, because the normative language of political science is something you have to learn to speak. We're aware of that problem. Two pieces of good news. One, for this program, we tried to adjust the courses in political science so that it is not too overloaded with things theoretical and things mathematical. Those of you who do have a background in political science know that contemporary political science is very fond of mathematics and quantitative measures. You'll be exposed to some of that, but although to a minimum possible degree. And yes, me and other faculty members know that some of our students need some adaptation and try to take that into consideration in the way we present our material. Yale's band score is required. I think I answered that. It is not required. It's just one and not the most important line in the portfolio application. And even if you don't present a IELTS or a TOEFL, but we see on your transcript that you did have a good amount of courses of English in your BA, you will qualify. We will not disqualify you if you don't present a IELTS or a TOEFL. And if the language of instruction in your baccalaureate education was English, you don't even need to do that. What about early applicants? I already made my application and received admission. Well, oh, I see one of the people who's already. Yes, sir, you are already admitted. The only question is whether you'll be eligible for a discount. And your portfolio was rated quite strongly. Available in a scene computer scholar. Available Master of Science in Computer Science with scholarships. Well, fine with me. Although when you apply, one part of the portfolio is an interview which has to be done by Skype if you are not in Moscow, and one of the first questions I will ask you on that interview, how do you feel about switching from computer science to political science? The conceptual language is quite difficult. You will be exposed to courses in political science which are not very easy. Are you not afraid? So be ready to answer that question. But formally, there are no requirements as to what kind of BA degree you have. Oops. Something happened to my chat. There we go. There we go. I can see your question, Mohammed. Let me check with Olga Burmakova after the seminar, and she will get in touch with you. Thank you. Well, I can see the acronym CGPA. Can you decode that? Giving admissions to the one who is socially more active in NGOs and their extracurricular. Well, we do look at the CV of an applicant. And of course, we take note if the person is active in NGO, civil society, or any other activity. That's part of the total evaluation portfolio. And please, one clarification is due. The threshold for admissions is not low, but it's not outstandingly high. A reasonably good portfolio and a complete portfolio gives a good chance to be invited to join the program. The question is that we are very constrained in granting full waivers or discounts on tuition. So you may very well be admitted, but be prepared to pay full or partial tuition fee for that. What is your preferred institutional, historical, discursive, constructivist? Me as a political scientist, my narrow field is political parties and everything that pertains to political parties, such as parliaments, elections, etc. For that, neo-institutionalism of rational choice is my favorite. My BA education, although we didn't have bachelor's and master's degrees at the time I was a student, which was in Middle Ages, last century sometime, but my BA degree was in Middle East history. So historic institutionalism is something I feel comfortable and familiar with. Discursive and constructivist. I know the terms and I read these papers. I don't use it myself as a political scientist. Oh, I see. Thank you for decoding the acronym. Uh, uh, I am done introducing the program. To my understanding, I answered all the questions I could read. When exactly will the program start? It's the first week of September. I hope the pandemic will not affect the work of the university in September. I hope it will be done by that time. Let me switch to another. No, it's fine here. The other question is, what do you think about the corona pandemic? It will affect this year master courses. Well, yes, indeed. This year the courses are affected. All the courses, this module. At HSE, we have 2 semesters divided into 4 modules. We had to interrupt Module 3, the first part of the spring semester, 2 weeks short to go online, and Module 4, which is continuing now, is completely online. Frankly, nothing can substitute face-to-face communication between a teacher and a student in the audience. However, there is no other way. I am teaching online. It's not a course in the Russian studies program. For me, it was quite an experience. I can't say I'm happy with it, but I'm happy with the fact that we can continue teaching and communicating with students being deprived of an opportunity to go to the university campus to meet each other in person. You also have students from... okay, I will not mention a specific country from which the question is asked. No, this year we don't have students from your country. But we don't have students only from South America. And of course, no students from the Antarctic. Penguins are not on the list. With these 2 exceptions, we have students from every single continent. Europe, North America, Africa, Asia, and most students are international, but we have several Russian citizens, Russian nationals in our program too. And there are no quotas broken by country or continent. It is easy to get part-time jobs in Moscow. Yes, you'll have to cover fee and living costs. Part-time jobs in Moscow. As I say, the university is not in a position to issue an official job permit except for jobs inside the university, in laboratories as research assistants, but as you may know, the number of in-house jobs in any university is limited. Having said that, we know that many of our students, including our international students, do have part-time jobs such as language instruction or something else, and many of them do it. I see a question. I see the name of another country, and I know this person. We don't have students from your country either, but I'll be proud to have at least 2 of you guys next year. The geography will broaden, I'm sure. Okay. Yeah, well, back to the quota systems. We don't have quotas. Just we have two slightly different tracks for Russian nationals and international students. But if you are not Russian, it doesn't matter where you come from in terms of your chances to be admitted. It's We are on air for 35 minutes now. As I said, I have nothing more to say. Let me wait for another minute or two for the participants to have a chance to ask one last question. If I don't see any questions arriving within the next minute or two, I'll bid goodbye to all of you and wish you good luck. I hope, since no questions were asked, no concerns mentioned, I hope you don't have problem communicating with the university, with the admission services, or submitting your portfolios, or getting information about the program. Let me make sure. How was to find out job? Oh, we don't. Is there a chance to work in the university as a research assistant? Chance, yes. Guarantee, no. If there are positions of a research assistant available, you can apply. The university does have a career service students, but however it pertains to helping to find a job, a career after graduation, not in the course of studies. As I said, the university formally is not in a position to issue job permits to international students. However, we know that many of our students have it. How do you personally define the state? Which state? State, one of my qualifications as a translator and interpreter. The word state has many different meanings. Do you lean towards the primacy of agency or structure in the endless debate? Excellent question. You will hear from me if you end up attending my course. Both agency and structure are important. However, when it comes to political development, at the end of 20th or in the 21st century, and particularly in this part of the world, in Russia, in post-communist countries, we, me and my colleagues, one of my co-authors is the Dean of Faculty of Social Science, Professor Andrei Melville. In this part of the world, at this time, agency factors become more important. They do not cancel structural factors. However, compared with older ages and compared with other areas of the world, agency plays a higher role. Professor Melville and his co-authors, in another article in which I did not participate, even made quantitative research of various factors affecting the development. Перезвоню, Кристин, на вебинаре сейчас. Excuse me, I had to answer an incoming call. That in post-communist world, in current days, structural factors are more important. The debate is endless. There is no correct or false answer, both matter, but if you ask me to choose side, I'm in the actors team. In Russia, it was a People's Democratic Dictatorship. Another good question. Well, first of all, People's Democratic, both in quote-unquote marks, is a term pertinent to a specific type of countries at a specific time of the 20th century, also known as the Communist bloc. Yes, Russia is backsliding away from the transition to democracy it seemed to be making in the last decade of the previous century. Democracies are different. Authoritarian or hybrid or not quite democratic regimes are also different. What you will hear from me is that although I'll find parallels and comparisons between Russia and other countries of different aspects of political development, each case is unique. You'll hear from me about a unique model of neo-corporatist state in Russia, and that the term I use to prefer Russia is inventing and reinventing neo-corporatism. And yes, unfortunately, it's a drifting further and further away from the democratic standards as we know it. Stage democracy. Not really. As I say, although please give me a chance to teach you something when you are in here. No, I know the concept. I don't think it is the best to describe what is happening in Russia. Besides, what's interesting in Russia is that I'm 60 years old. I lived in so many different Russias at different parts of my life. As a political scientist, I started working for the think tank I mentioned in 1993. I'm in the same, well, not exactly the same job. I've only become CEO of the think tank 2 years ago when my senior partner passed away. But I'm in the same job for more than a quarter of a century. It doesn't make me immobile or passive. The work, the nature of consulting work, redefined and reinvented itself so many times over the quarter of the century I was there. So if there is one good thing about being busy with Russia is that it's never boring. It's always on the move. Is Roskomnadzor worth a successor to Glavlit? I'm not sure many other students would know this Volapuk. No, not quite. Roskomnadzor, which is a state observation inspection, covers, at this time in its current shape, it covers so many different things, including what is known in the United States as Food and Drug Administration, including sanitary control, which was merged into it several years ago. So now it's Roskomnadzor who is supervising many of the quarantine or self-isolation measures in various Russian cities and regions. Glavlit was mostly censorships in written materials, literature, newspapers, magazines, all the things written. If I understand the logic of your questions, I'm not arguing that Russia is backsliding away from democracy, but it will not slide back into what it used to be under Stalin or under Brezhnev. An old Greek philosopher said you can't enter the same river twice. Okay. Right. I thought you meant Rospotrebnadzor. And Roskomnadzor. Let me tell you one thing. I'm not happy with the freedom of the state of free media in Russia at this time. However, I was old enough to live in the Soviet Union, and to know what it was like at that time, even in the better days of Gorbachev's perestroika. Russia is in all dimensions a country much more free, including freedom and expressions, than the Soviet Union used to be 30 or 40 years ago. How free are students to openly discuss? I never had a problem to say what I wanted to say in the class, and I never had a complaint from a student that he or she was insufficiently free in debates or in what they say or write. And I do teach Russian politics, so that's the area you're asking about. Okay. I was in communication with only one participant for the last 5 minutes, and that person thanked me. Another question. How much can someone earn by working as a student in Moscow? I don't know. Besides, I believe different jobs pay different prices. I'm afraid you exhausted my knowledge on the part-time jobs of students in Moscow. That's not coronavirus. That's a smoker's cough. And besides, coronavirus does not travel via webinar websites, to the best of my knowledge. Does HSE offer a PhD in Russian studies? No, there's no such thing as PhD in Russian studies, but it does offer PhDs in political science, and you can do a PhD dissertation about Russia based on your knowledge of Russian studies in the same Faculty of Social Sciences of HSE. I said there is no such thing as PhD in Russian studies. If you look at the list of qualifications for PhD, there is something that, like area studies, but Frank, that's probably not the best road to follow. We have a strong PhD school at the Social Sciences Department in Political Science, and topics about Russia are more than relevant there. How much one-on-one time do students get with their supervisors? It depends on the student and the supervisor. I'm trying to make myself available to the extent my students want me. If and when you are in, you will be required to write a course paper in your first year and a master's thesis in your second year, for which you will have to find an academic supervisor from the faculty. You'll have to do that yourself, but as an academic supervisor of the program, I'll be there to help, to put you in contact with professors. And once you get the supervisor of your course paper, build a relationship. As I said, I try to make myself available to the satisfaction of my students, and every faculty member at the university is required to have office hours during which you can sign up for an appointment. Are there scholarships to study at the PhD level at HSE? To the best of my knowledge, there is no tuition at PhD, but there's a competition, and if you win that competition, you will uh, get admitted there without a fee. Okay. I don't want to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but I don't see any more questions coming in. If you forgot to ask a question, or if something comes to mind, write to Olga Burmakova and or myself, and you are welcome to apply, and I'd be happy to meet you, many of you, next September. No more questions appearing here.